All right, hey traders, how's it going? TG here. It is May 19th, and we are seeing a lot of sell in May and go away. So we're going to be talking about that, and then the other thing we're going to be talking about is this going to be a bounce? I covered that in the little Instagram promo, Periscope promo that we just had a couple of minutes ago. So let's talk about this oversold situation. But before we get into that, for anybody who's new, and always got to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm over here at profitpilot.com. So go ahead and check this out. It's profit-pilot.com. And this last one that I wrote about was about the mask update. We got big news about the CDC coming out and changing guidance and saying, hey, vaccinated people are good. We've got, I think it was over 50% of the population now with at least one dose. They're looking for 70%, 80% before we can really say, hey, we're super out of this. And it's one of those things that I think is kind of a buy the rumor, sell the news. Like, we know the masks are going to be coming off eventually. It might take a while, but we know they're going to come off eventually. We also know that we're on track to get the whole nation, the world vaccinated and all that kind of stuff produced. And so, maybe there's one aspect where we think, oh, okay, masks are off, and maybe restaurant capacity is going to go to 100%, and maybe Disneyland and Six Flags and all those places are going to start reopening, in full, just in time for summer and 4th of July and all this good stuff. And that should give some really good emphasis to the market and drive things forward. And okay, we're going to see a resurgence and all this other stuff that might be because of that. Well, we've kind of seen this before with other news about the vaccine and making progress and whatever. And I personally think it's all been baked into the cake. We know this is happening. We know the vaccines are coming out. We know all this, and we know that generally COVID is going to be behind us at some point, and we're learning to live with it in the meantime. So, kind of the thing I was writing about is don't be surprised if the market just doesn't care about this new CDC stuff about the masks coming off. So, kind of just talked about that if you guys want to go check it out. All right, so let's get into the market. And we had a pretty clear signal yesterday. Let's see, yesterday was Tuesday, and then Friday and Monday. So let's kind of talk about that, because where I was talking to my subscribers, the Moxie subscribers, that if you guys are interested in joining, you can come check it out through profitpilot.com or Simpler Trading, any of that stuff, is on Friday we had a big rebound move. And the one thing I could say with certainty was that this move was pretty overbought. And the way that we could look at that was that price was pretty far off of the 8 EMA. And we could also see price was off the 15 SMA. All those things were generally overbought situations. And then you could see that here, and even to the downside right there, and to the downside right there. So that's one way that I look at it. The other thing is my favored inverse trampoline move. So we got the regular trampoline move and the inverse trampoline move. And that is when price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. That actually occurred back here, but I couldn't quite tell until it was a little bit too late, because the last time we had something like this, these moving averages did hold and it continued up like that. So couldn't really tell that one until it was a little too late when price wanted to actually roll over further. But once we did that, this one was fairly easy to tell, because we were coming from below up. Those are the easiest to find, is when price is coming from below the 50 up like this, and the Moxie indicator is below 0. It's a little bit harder to tell on these when it's coming from above and getting pulled down. So that was easy. And then yesterday, the internals were just absolute crap. They weren't going anywhere. They were neutral. There was just no life, no energy, and really by the end of the day, you could see that the market just totally sold off, and we were just not going anywhere here at the downtrending hourly 50. So we got a massive gap down this morning. Fine, I'm in cash, not worrying about anything, just kind of watching this whole thing. And here we are back at the daily 50, which is what I was projecting. I kind of figured we were going to revisit that at some point, and we're doing it today. And then we look here at the hourly chart, and boy, are we oversold. We got a big gap here. We are outside of that third ATR. And then remember, as I said just 2 minutes ago, where price was off of the 8 on these two situations, and this one here and this one here, where are we right now? We are very far off of the 8 EMA on the hourly chart, which makes me look at this and say, hey, I'm thinking that we're probably going to get some upward movement. It might very well be into resistance. Like this downside may not be over, but for right now, what I'm looking at is we're probably seeing a double bottom, and we got this big gap right here, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a reversion to the mean at least. So keep that in mind, kind of something like this up to maybe the hourly 50, something like that, maybe to the daily 8 EMA, something along those lines. And if that happens, then you got to kind of watch and see if there's going to be more downside, which there definitely could be. We've been seeing a lot of things melt down in this market. If we look at the Nasdaq, it too is at a double bottom. And what I've been looking at is a little bit more on this daily chart. So what I'm seeing is we're getting kind of stretched to the downside is kind of how I'm feeling. Is we've got this double bottom. Price has been riding the 8 EMA to the downside, and at some point that's going to become stretched to the downside. And most likely what it's going to do is whenever it comes back up, it'll probably come to the daily 21. That's a typical spot. And then if we look at this, let me kind of move my cursor over. If we look at there, maybe where the daily 21 is, it's going to be just over the hourly 50 and right into this previous resistance area. And then also on the daily chart, it looks like it's going to be about the daily 50. So if we do catch a move to the upside, and if it happens to be of some strength, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Nasdaq maybe move up just a little bit past the hourly 50 into that previous resistance and into the daily 50, that kind of stuff. So again, we're going to have to keep two things in mind at once. Yes, I kind of mean a reversion to the mean, like a move up to the upside, but I do not think this is going to be a swing trade up. I don't think that this is going to be like, oh yeah, we're getting in the clear and let's start moving up. I think it's going to be messy. It's probably going to be choppy. But I think that is probably where we're going to be going now. And then the next thing we have to look for is, does this move to the upside run into resistance, and does that actually start more chop now to the downside? Just kind of garbage, basically. And then let me show you the IWM and then the Dow, and then I'll show you Bitcoin, because I think that might kind of help explain my case of what might be kind of happening here if things continue to get pretty bad and stay bad. So the IWM, this one is also fairly easy to look at. It ran right into the underside of the daily 50. So this is kind of similar to what I was saying about the Nasdaq. Like, it's reversion to the mean. So the Nasdaq, remember, is below the 8. And I said the reversion to the mean would be about the 21 EMA on the daily and about the daily 50. Well, that's exactly what the IWM did yesterday. The other thing, and I was telling my subscribers about this yesterday, in fact, one person in general who was asking me a question in the chat, saying something right around here, and I said, nope, that's pretty rough. That's not a good situation, because those of you who know my 50-250 maneuver, what do we have here? Here's the 50, here's the 200, and we at least have to come back down to the 50 in order to do that. So those of you who know the 50-250, well, what do we look at? The 200 is most likely resistance, because we were able to cross the 50 and we're running into the 200. So there's the 200, there's the 50, and also the daily 21, all those kind of things. So that one is fairly easy too, along with another inverse trampoline move. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. So saw that one. And then the Dow, this one was really clear. I made an entirely separate post on this one. So you Moxie people had a bit of a heads up on this one. I said, look at this. It is flagging right into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator below 0, and it's getting rejected by the 15-minute 200 and the 15-minute 50. So all of that was pretty clear on that one. We never know how big of a move is going to come next, but at least we know that that's something that we're looking at, and that's going to be an issue. Now, let me look at Bitcoin. If you guys want to start throwing up some tickers to look around, because, I'm in cash. I'm not too excited about trying to trade anything right now. It's very challenging and difficult and messy and all that kind of stuff. So, Austin, I see your thing. Imran, good to see you. And, Samuk, reversion to the daily 21, probably on the cards, for the Nasdaq is what I'm guessing you're looking at. So, GBTC, if we look at Bitcoin, here is ultimately what I'm concerned about with the Nasdaq, because I think the Nasdaq is kind of in this position. And I'll go back to the Nasdaq so you can see exactly what I'm looking at. But here is the thing. I believe we are probably right here on the Nasdaq, right? What we've just finished from Friday, Monday, and Tuesday was this inverse trampoline move right here as price ran into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator below 0, right? We just saw that on the Nasdaq. And then we get this big move down right here which essentially is a double bottom. You know, I know that Bitcoin went a little bit undercut, but if we look at the Nasdaq, it's a double bottom right there. And so then I'm saying, hey, I wouldn't be surprised to see a move back up to the upside. And for the Nasdaq, I said I wouldn't be surprised if price got back over the hourly 50 and made its way towards daily 21, daily 50, something like that, right? Well, this right here is this right here on Bitcoin. It went to basically the daily 21 and the daily 50, you know, that kind of area. And it also went to the hourly 200 in this case for Bitcoin. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a move back up like that. But here is the crux of my situation where I'm talking about is, what if this continues to stay bad? What if this isn't the next move to the upside? And what if this is actually building for more energy to the downside and actually more decay? My concern is, and we need to keep an eye on this, watch for the Nasdaq, in this particular situation, because I think Bitcoin is resembling Nasdaq and vice versa. Watch to see if price on the Nasdaq continues to get rejected by the underside of a downtrending hourly 200, and watch to see if price continues to get rejected by the underside of the daily 50. We don't know yet. It's going to take some time, but I want you to just kind of keep looking at that and seeing if this is an issue. One way to notice that this is going to be a problem is if the hourly 50 just can't hold anything. If price can't hold the hourly 50, that's going to be another sign, because if you look in a little bit closer, you can see nowhere. It never actually held the hourly 50 anywhere in through there. And in fact, once this thing finally broke, you could see it broke right there and got rejected by the underside of the hourly 50 as it continued to get rejected by the underside of the hourly 200. So keep watching that. Let's go back to the Nasdaq so that then we can kind of look at this and piece these things together. So if we look, you know, my concern is that if we do move up here a bit, we are ultimately going to keep getting rejected by the hourly 200, and we're ultimately maybe going to keep getting rejected by the daily 50. So keep that in mind. We have seen this before. We saw it here, you know, and through here, that price was getting rejected by the 200 until it finally managed to get over, and it was getting rejected by the 50 until it finally managed to get over. So just kind of keep that in mind, that if this gets worse, that's one way that we're going to be able to notice it. You know, Jody, we each have our moments like that. So JC was actually quite right about a few trades, and I was quite wrong about a few trades last week. So this is a difficult market. We all need to admit that, and we all see different things. So JC has been doing a good job with gold. So, you know, he's been nailing that one. I think silver is kind of hanging out there. The one thing I will say about gold is I'm starting to get a little bit nervous about it, because it is starting to get really far outside of that third ATR on the daily chart, and it's starting to really pull away from the 8 EMA, and it's kind of going vertical. And I'm just not so sure if it's going to be able to keep doing this, mostly because of that 50, 200, 50 maneuver that I'm kind of looking at and saying, hey, at some point, it's probably going to kick in. I'm going to be seeing something like that. Now, my understanding, I think JC was looking for, what, 177 or so on gold. I think you guys have hit it. You know, I'm just getting a little bit nervous about it as far as that goes, but ride it until the wheels fall off. But I think right now, gold hitting. Oops. Let me get that. Pushing too many buttons down here. Let's see. About gold hitting those third ATRs, you know, that's my outer boundary of how far price goes. So I'm getting kind of nervous about still riding a gold trade on that one. All right, then let's see, NAKD, Austin, let's see, double bottom on the daily. Oh man, you know, I'm just having a hard time trying to be, you know, bullish on anything right now. Yes, there can be moves to the upside. I see what you're looking at. Like, look at this. Leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot. There's even a pattern within a pattern. So if we look at this, this could also be a leg, heel, arch of the foot, you know, starting to do the ball of the foot, and maybe we start getting that elf toe someplace. So Austin, I totally see what you're seeing. Nearly a trampoline move right there on the hourly, but right here, this looks like it could be a good setup, assuming it works. Here is the first move across the hourly 50. Here is the second move testing the hourly 50. So good eye on that one, because that also is the 50, 200, 50 maneuver. So yeah, man, you're nailing it as far as you're seeing things, but we need to wait for it to confirm. for me, and I'm trying to think, I was just looking at one stock earlier talking about this. For me, in order to know if price is going to hold the hourly 50, because there is no guarantee that price is going to bounce off the hourly 50. And Austin, I hope you hear me here, because what we need to see, we need to verify that price is going to hold the hourly 50. And how do we do that? We do it by seeing if price can eventually get back over the 15-minute 50 and use the 15-minute 50 for support. Otherwise, we just keep running into the issues that I was running into a few weeks ago, is that none of these setups were holding. That every time they would just bounce and then come back down, they'd kind of spend a little bit of time here before then going lower. So that you got to look at that and wait to see if price can actually hold that hourly 50, and you'll know it based on the 15-minute time frame. All right, MAC. Yeah, MAC and AHT, I was looking at those things. Again, I know these are reopening plays. I know that's what we're talking about. Man, I'm having a hard time with what we're looking at here. I'm just not so sure. I see right here that yes, we're out of earnings, and yes, price is holding the daily 50, and yes, the Moxie indicator is above zero. All these things should be great. I don't like to trade earnings, so any of this kind of choppiness I would have just not had to have dealt with. And then we come in here and we say, and I'll even show you like Goodyear and all these other ones. This is really what's the real pain, is you get these moves like this, and then they're given all back basically in a day. Like you get 2 or 3 good days, and then the market changes and it gives it all right back. This is the market we're in. It's very, very difficult, very uncomfortable. But look, third ATR. This is the kind of crap that I was dealing with when I was trading Deer. I thought Deer was going to be kind of like one of those kind of safer plays that would just kind of be migrating along the daily 50. Didn't happen. We got to that third ATR. We got that gap between price and the hourly 50, and you know what it did? It went down to the hourly 50 and kept going. So, JR, I don't have much to say for you other than be careful with these things, and if it keeps, have a stop, and if it keeps going down, just don't be surprised, because that's what's been happening. And look at DE. Like holy cow. But look at the similarity to MAC. It went to the third ATR, and there was this big gap between price and the hourly 50. Now, normally for my kind of trading, that's totally fine. Like I can say that yes, price is overbought. There's a gap between price and the hourly 50, and you know what? We can go back down here. We should bounce off the hourly 50, or even if it's below the hourly 50, that's trampoline move. We should hold the hourly 200, and then we'll move back up. But you know what? Instead, it continued to fall right here. It continued to fall even lower, stopped me out, so it turned a good trade into a bad trade, and this market is just not having any fun. It moves up, and then it moves down, and then here's the one thing that, here's my trade as far as like an inverse, right there. You guys see how price got rejected by the underside of the hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator below zero, and you can see price got rejected by the underside of the 15-minute 50. So that thing was going down. That went from a bullish trade to a bearish trade in a matter of a week. And this is what's concerning me about the market, is we're seeing things start to really fall apart. And now you can see that DE is significantly below the daily 50. So careful about these. The only good thing I can say, and now I guess I can't say anything because earnings are coming up, so everything goes out the window because of earnings. But the only thing I could say is that possibly this is starting to become oversold, and there might be a bounce. But even that bounce, just watch out. That bounce might go up into resistance before rolling over. This is a very treacherous market. Yeah. Samuk, you got that. Moves to the upside are short-lived these days and need to be quick in taking profits. Yeah, I've been learning that the hard way. I need to be better about taking those quick profits. Like I had DE, I had AMC, I had Momo. Those were all profitable trades that all got taken back because this market, they will move up and then they'll take it all right back. And all of my rules have been just falling apart. The rules are not applying in this kind of market right now. Let's see, Futu. What are you looking at here, Gwen? Well, first of all, okay. I guess I had earnings, so it's past earnings. I'm just kind of not seeing much here. I'm seeing a big mixture. My concern here is if you look at the daily chart on Futu, here's the leg, here's the heel, here's the arch of the foot. So If we're at the arch of the foot, then most likely price is going to come back down to test the lows again. And also, if I'm looking at the hourly chart, what is this? This is technically an inverse trampoline move. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. So there could be kind of two ways that this goes based on my rules. And again, the rules right now are starting to fall apart because the market is just an absolute mess. So one way to look at this is an inverse trampoline move, and we should see price come back down and do something like that. Or we could see that price could, in fact, hold the hourly 50 and continue to hold the hourly 50. And, maybe this thing migrates a little bit more. But then I'd be looking at price running into the hourly 200, because of that 50, 200, 50 maneuver. So I don't really have a clear picture on something like this because you also have this resistance on the daily chart. The 8 is still below the 21. It's still in a downtrend based on that because the fast moving average is below the slow moving average. You've got resistance at the 21. And you know what? Maybe the best case scenario if this went up is to the hourly 200 and maybe to the daily 50. Maybe. So I don't have much to really say about this one. Let's see. Blink. Yeah, so Fiona, I think you're nailing it right there. You say that it seems only the inverse trampoline trade works in this current market. I think that is what's happening because I think the market is changing course. I believe it's starting to top out. And I think that clearly we've seen all the FOMO names, like all the future tech names, all the stuff that ran crazy from November to February. They've all fallen apart. And all they've been doing is melting down. And then we've got some of the bigger names like DE and CAT. And we thought maybe those were some safe havens. Well, they're starting to fall apart too. Maybe I'll go over to CAT next. I think what's happening is the short side is starting to kick in. We've got sell and may go away. We've got all sorts of craziness. Maybe it's the biggest buy the rumor, sell the news about the mask situation. Who knows? The other thing I would say is this market has gone up huge. I just wrote a blog. You guys can go check out. Let me, let's see. Well, let me get Blink and then I'll get back to the markets. Because I think if you look at the monthly and the weekly timeframes, I think we're darn high. We're really seeing some extensions up here that they are pretty darn high and starting to run into major resistance. So yeah, if you guys want, I just wrote a blog for Simpler. It's going to be also on my Profit Pilot thing. Go look at it. I'll show you a little bit here as a preview about the monthly, weekly, and I think we're starting to run out. But for Blink, look at this. And Gwen, this applies to the Futu also. You see how here, let's see, why is that not working? You see here how price ran into the daily 21. You see here how price basically ran into the daily 21. And you see here how price kind of at the daily 21. As far as Blink goes and as far as Futu goes, you can see what I'm pointing out. Here's price running into the hourly 200. Here's price kind of starting to run into the hourly 200. I'd be careful. I think the best situation that we can get is maybe price holding the hourly 50 for a little bit, but then running into stuff like this because it couldn't do it before. I'm not so sure it's going to do it again. Maybe the best that we're going to get is some chop. I don't know. I don't see anything too good. If anything, I'm looking at these things kind of bouncing into resistance before rolling over again. I don't really see good long entries. I just see them moving up into resistance, like a pullback and a downtrend. Michael, the Moxie indicator is a momentum-based indicator. So that's what it's trying to help me to figure out is how much energy is in the market or in a particular stock. All right, so here is the thing that I was showing in the blog and the newsletter that I'm writing. If you guys look here, we got the Fibonacci's and we've got the ATRs. And if we look at the Fibonacci, what do we have? 618, the 1618. Somebody caught me on that before. So 1618. And what do we have? We're right at it. We're right at it. We were talking about this, 3 weeks ago, how the market just kept pushing up. It was unbelievable. It just kind of kept going. And it was like the algorithms were just programmed to say, hey, you got to hit the 618. Don't care what you do. Just keep pushing up there. And then once you do, then sell out. That's exactly what they did. And the other thing is, look, we have now hit the monthly third ATR. And we've hit the weekly third ATR. And you guys know what I think about the ATRs. I just covered it with gold. I think I really like the ATRs. I trust them. They work well. They mean a lot. And the fact that we've now hit the third ATR on the weekly and the monthly, that's kind of an outer range. It's kind of a big deal. I think it's a big deal. And then you kind of put that together with the 618. I think this is starting to. I think the chickens are coming home to roost. So I think that's an issue. And then if we look at this, there is a big gap between price and the monthly 10, just like there was a big gap here and it kind of pulled in a little bit, and that there was a gap here and it pulled in, and then there was a gap here and it pulled in. So also look at that gap between price and the monthly 10. I'm just seeing that things are starting to get extended, and I can't find a place to go hide on the long side. So this might be where I have to start getting into some of the stuff on the short side. No, they're not Bollinger Bands. They are Keltner channels. They're the ATRs. They're Keltner based on the 21 SMA. All right, so let's see. Tan. What the heck's going on with tan? Yeah, see, I don't know. The most I could see is maybe you can catch kind of an oversold bounce. I do not see long trends. I see that price got oversold. Like, you see that gap between price and the 8 EMA, and you see how price is outside of that third ATR. They're oversold. And that's about all that's happening, is you're getting a bounce in an oversold condition. Kind of like here, I think we tried this before. We were looking at this and we saw a bounce, but what is that? It was a bounce into the daily 50 as resistance, and there was a gap here between price and the hourly 50, and then it never held the hourly 50. So let's see, who was asking me that? Naked, I think it was, yes. So Austin, here's the example of what I was talking about for Naked, and saying, hey, I see on Naked that yes, price is at the hourly 50. And I said, we don't know if it's going to hold, but how do we know if it is or isn't going to hold? We look at the next lower time frame. We look at the 15-minute 50. And if we look here on tan as the example for Naked, you see how price continued to stay underneath this moving average the entire time. That is how we knew that tan was not going to hold that hourly 50. So if we go back to Naked, what are we doing? It's the same situation. I hope you see exactly the same thing. You see here, price is currently at the hourly 50. Will it hold? Well, you're going to have to watch that 15-minute 50 and see, is price going to keep getting rejected by the 15-minute 50? Or can it get on top of the 15-minute 50? And if it can get on top of the 15-minute 50 and use that for support, then it has a potential to bounce off of the hourly 50. I don't know if you guys can see it, but Lewis just popped up here. It's my fiance's cat, so he likes to hang out with me and trade. Maybe he'll make some noise. He likes to talk a lot. Yeah, so Austin, good. Yeah, tight stop, and just be prepared. It is not confirmed that price is going to hold that hourly 50 yet, so just be prepared for that. FSR. Yeah, just, you know what? Again, I see an oversold bounce. There was earnings, so I don't trade earnings. And what I'd be more concerned about, who's asking me this? Terry. So what I'd be more concerned about this is that it's running into the 21 EMA on the daily, which is the arch of the foot for me, and it's also running into a downtrending hourly 200. Those are both things that are resistance to me. I look at that and say, I typically see price roll over after that, roll down, go down. The other thing is, if this is going to work, and actually let me kind of zoom in here, if this is going to work, I want to see price come down to the hourly 50, and then, like Austin's looking at for Naked, I want to see if price can hold the hourly 50. That's what I want to see. I tried taking this trade before right here, because you see here, price was holding the hourly 50, so I went long right there. And when did I get out? I got out ahead of my stop, because right in through here, price could not hold the hourly 50 because, and Austin, take a look at this again, you can see right here, price was getting rejected by the 15-minute 50 right through there. And so I looked at that and said, hey, this is going to be an issue. We can see that price is not going to hold the hourly 50, and that's going to be a concern. And that's why I would expect price to come down to the hourly 50, and then the question is it going to hold? And you're going to have to use the 15-minute 50 to check that out. Andrew, nice. Yeah, does Lewis think this is a dead cat bounce? He doesn't prefer that term. I think he actually prefers the comatose iguana bounce. Have you guys heard about that one? But yeah, I'd be looking for FSR to come down, and we got to figure out what it's going to do that hourly 50, and after that we'll check it out. Uh, let's see. I don't think there's really too much else to say through here. Workhorse, I think that's a dead stock for a long time. Yeah, the best you could hope for is maybe some oversold bounces. You know, kind of like FSR did, is maybe kind of up here, maybe to the 21. But again, we're trying to play these things that are just oversold bounces, and they will move up for a little bit, but they're moving up into resistance, and then they can fail. Yeah, just be careful. All these things are still in downtrends, and all we're trying to do is catch a bounce. Yeah, yeah, thanks, Jason. Yeah, the cat indicator, right? Oh man. Well, we'll have to go find those iguanas out in Florida when it gets too cold. And Tesla, Bitcoin. I mean, look at this thing. You know, it's just having a hard time. Now, here's an example. I'll just wrap up with this one. But you guys see here how FSR, if you look at FSR, it's kind of like up here. And I said for FSR, I want to see price at least come back down to the hourly 50, right? So there's what I'm expecting for FSR. Now the question is, once FSR gets to the hourly 50, will it bounce? And you can see in this case on Tesla, it did bounce. But also, like we've been seeing in this market, let me get my cursor lined up. What we've been seeing is these moves don't last long. We get about a 2-day move, and then they are given all right back, and then they continue to roll over. So be very, very careful with this, because also what I'm seeing with Tesla was this was an inverse trampoline move. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. And then you could see in through here, it just kept holding the hourly 50 to the downside. And it just can't get a break. It can't catch a break. Like, look at those 2 recent times where price ran right into the underside of the hourly 50. You know, maybe at some point we're gonna get an oversold bounce. We're gonna get a dead cat bounce. We're gonna get a comatose iguana bounce. Sure, because if you look at Tesla, we are pushing outside of that daily third ATR. We are starting to see a little bit of pressure on the Moxie indicator. You know, we are starting to see things like this stuff is really, really oversold. But you're going to have to be very sharp to figure out exactly where that is. And if you do go long, you need to understand that all you're doing is catching a bounce. That all you're going to do is catch a bounce, and at some point, it's going to then roll back over. So catch these things, ride them for 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 days. Understand the context of the situation, that you are only catching an oversold bounce, that this is not a trend to the upside, and just go with that. You got to make sure your expectations meet reality, because that hasn't been working for me. My expectations have not been lining up with what the market is doing, and so it's like, all right, I'm just in cash. This is not a trending market for me, so I'm in cash. All right, guys, I think that's about it. You all take care. It is a treacherous, difficult market. We're going to be into chop, and I think this is basically a short-term trader / day trader's paradise, if you want to call it that. But if you guys are not prepared for something like that, to where things only last 2 or 3 days and then they give it all back, just sit on your hands. Just be in cash. It's the summer. Go enjoy the nice weather. We don't have to wear masks anymore, so go say hi to people. Go talk to them. I don't know. Go do something else, and just come back when the market is doing better. All right, everyone. Take care. I'll talk to you later.